on what is a warmer and sunnier day in Philadelphia, and hope the weather is better for everybody than it was last week, because last week I know there was some crazy weather happening across the country, and thanks for those that were able to make it. I know most of you know me, but for those few that might not, I'm David Walsh, the president and principal of Zoo Advisors, and welcome to our fourth in our series, our fourth and final of this series on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really been a great week, and we were looking at some of the numbers over the course of the last 4 weeks, and we've had over 600 people register for all of the sessions. I know we have a lot of repeats. I think in our last, when we last looked last week, we had at least 80 to 100 people that signed on to each of the webinars. We'll give you some data updates after this in terms of what those actual numbers have looked like. But what it shows is that there's really been an interest and also a commitment to discussing this topic, hearing the stories, which, if anything we learned from last week, we need more time. We need to create more space for this, which we are committed to doing. It was pretty funny last week before the sessions, we were like, this is going to be too much time for stories. But what we found out is we gave too little time. And so we will find more time to do that. But today, what we wanted to do is culminate this series and move to the action and looking at things of what we can actually do to start making progress. We know talking and having the conversations is important, but we also are committed and really want to see some future progress. So that's what today's session is going to be focused on. And today, which is different from all of our other sessions, is we don't have any formal panelists. You all are our panelists today. You're all going to participate. We're going to put you to work and get you active and involved in this conversation. So I hope you're ready. But this is your chance to really be part of that conversation and have an active part of that conversation. So again, thanks for being with us on this journey. And we see this as the end of this series, but really the start of a lot of our work and a lot of the whole community's work that needs to take place in this area. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Laurie Perkins, who will help facilitate the next piece of this. Laurie?
Yeah, thank you, David, and thank you all for joining us again. It has been a month, huh? When we first started this whole series, I don't think I had a really good idea in my mind of how it was going to go, or where we were going to end up, and I have to say I'm kind of blown away. I don't think that I had anticipated the level of engagement that we've seen. And it's really been encouraging to see how many people have stuck with us from the beginning and come to each and every one of them. So that's been really wonderful. And thank you for being with us on this journey, which, as David says, is not over. I'm also very thankful to all of the speakers who have been willing to share their lived experiences and tell their stories openly and with courage and with honesty. I hope that you all have been as moved as I have been by hearing those stories. I've been engaged, I've been saddened, I've been sympathetic, I've been surprised, but mostly I've been inspired and really encouraged and hopeful about the path that we're on together. I really feel optimistic about the future we're headed towards. A couple of the things that have just really stuck with me and have kept spinning in my head have been things like Charles Hopper's conception of the soul perspective. I found that so resonant, and I just love that. Tony Vecchio's clarity that having the diverse workforce isn't the goal. The goal is to save the world, and having a diverse workforce is the only way that we're going to get there. Cassandra Ray's energy and spirit and her catalyst circles that she talked about, and Cynthia Vernon's thoughts on decentering whiteness. I mean, there were just so many things that I found really thought provoking, and again, that have really stuck with me and I've kept thinking about. And all the stories last week, I was wishing I could be in all. I was popping into different breakout sessions and I was wishing I could visit them all, because I think there were some really wonderful stories and conversations that were shared. And again, thank you all for all of that. And as David said, we had all these plans ready last week. Oh, they're going to end early. We have to be ready to fill the time. I was going to make you listen to a story of mine. And it turned out that, again, universally, everybody wanted more time. That was really amazing and wonderful to know that there's that strong desire to continue sharing and to continue listening. I think I heard some people say they felt guilty that they didn't speak up, but I think listening, you know, we need listeners too. You have to hear other people's stories as much as you, or more, as much or more as you talk. So we don't want to lose that energy. And as I think I said a couple of times, we don't want this to just be done. Okay, we've done DEAI, what's next? You know, we want to be able to create a space that is safe and comfortable, and maybe sometimes uncomfortable, for continued conversation within the community. Zoo Advisors is fully committed to finding ways to create that space so that can happen. And more than that as well, the sharing of the experiences and the conversations are incredibly valuable, and that does need to continue, but there needs to be action. We need to do more than talk. We need to act. And that's what we sort of want to focus on today, is what are our next steps and how do we move the ball forward? What do we do on our own at our own institutions when the Zoom screen is gone? Especially when we're all about to be occupied with spring break coming up for our zoos and aquariums, and getting your teams vaccinated and getting those steps to get back to normal, and remembering to sign timesheets and fixing the fence in front of Bongo, and all of the things that are about to and continue to pop up that we have to deal with and that demand our energy and our attention. How do we keep this in the front of our minds? So for the rest of our time today, as David said, we're going to make you guys work, and I'm going to let Kathy Yoon be your taskmaster. She's going to lead us through some kind of focused questions that we hope will help us all think about how we want to move the ball forward. How do we identify and overcome roadblocks that might stand in the way of action, and what kind of actions we can actually commit to. So with that said, I will shut up and I will let you take the floor, Kathy Yoon.
Hi, everybody. My internet is a little rocky, so I'm going to keep this brief and let you all get to it. So we have created some Google Jamboards to help collect some thoughts on a couple issues or a couple questions. The great thing about Jamboard is you can put as many thoughts as you want up there, and there is no way for me to find out that you were the one that wrote it. So it'll truly be a crowdsourced group of thoughts, ideas, pledges, criticisms, anything you want to put out there that could help us to figure out our next steps in this process. So for that, I am putting in the chat a link to our Jamboard. When you get there, if you have not used the, oh, yep, the anonymous animals are popping in. When you get there, you will see a couple things. You'll see the first slide, which says, what does success in DEIAJ look like to you for the next 1 to 3 years? Then if you go to the top, you will see 1 out of 3 and a couple arrows. If you click next frame, you will see what does success in DEIJ look like to you for the next 3 to 5 years. And if you click it again, you'll see what's getting in your way. And that is just meant to ask, what is preventing you from jumping out and doing this right now? And, oh, yep, I see some drawings. So what you're going to use is on the right hand or on the left-hand side, you'll see a whole bunch of little icons. The one that you're meant to use is going to be the 4th one down that says sticky note. So if you just click on that, you can start a sticky. Oh no, too many people viewing the file. I'm going to copy it and make another one. And if you can't use that link, then we'll make a couple of these boards. Hold, please.
What a great problem to have.
I know, right? Okay. New. Okay. For those of you who are in there, are there any questions that you have? It has a 30-person limit. Okay, that's great. I will make some copies. Okay. We are learning, we are growing. Okay, there are already people in the copy. That's good. Okay. All right, here's another copy for folks. I see some people already in there. Ooh, someone has figured out how to do the +1s. That's great.
So how do I do it?
I know, I don't know how to do that. That's new.
You type.
Okay, I'm coming up with a third copy here. Okay, here's the third copy. And I'll make one more. Okay, got a bunch of people coming into the third copy. Great. Yep, that's what I've been doing. Thanks to Noya. That's good. Okay, and the fourth copy is coming to you right now. That should be good for everybody. Great. Okay. Yeah, the main thing you're going to want to use is sticky note, really, to draw with it though. Once you have completed the first one, don't forget to move to the second and third Jamboards. And if you are just joining, I'm going to put the link to the last Jamboard in there one more time. So if you're just joining, click on the link in the chat and join us over in our Jamboard. There are 3 slides. These are looking great.
Kathy, and how do you do the plus 1, plus 2?
I don't know. Somebody figured that out and I don't know. They have leveled up over me, which is not hard to do, but.
Because I don't want to duplicate thoughts, but there are some that I want to just edit it and save it.
Don't understand.
It's Michelle. If you click on the 3 dots, you can hit edit and then you can save it.
Oh, that's what, okay. I thought, great, perfect.
Sorry.
Someone had put that in the, no, someone had put that in the chat earlier as like how to create, I thought they were saying how to create a new board. But wow, what a cool thing I just learned.
So it's not automatically doing it. I have to go type plus and my number.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
We're going to give this like 3 to 4 more minutes. So if you are all done, maybe consider going through and reading others and adding plus ones or whatnot, where you would like. And remember, everything you say is anonymous. I am not tech smart enough. I don't think there's a way to find out who wrote what. And if you end up just duplicating a Post-it, that's okay too. When I do the analysis, I will count them as two different or two responses in the same vein. I don't think we're all just sitting here in silence. A lot of really good thoughts here. Okay, let's take one more minute. Wrap up those thoughts and ideas. Okay. We're going to talk through some of the themes that I see emerging. Feel free to continue putting thoughts in as we go. It's not going to shut down at all. But for this first, so this has been fascinating. Originally, my idea was to move things around and find the themes, but things were happening so quickly that I will just do that later and get back to you. But I did see some things that came out as resonant across all of the boards because I can see all of them. So in the first question about what does DEIJ look like in the next 1 to 3 years, I'm seeing a lot about hiring, a lot about getting bodies in the room, getting brains in our conversations, changing our hiring practices, making our staffing match our communities. That seems to be an urgent top of mind need for a lot of folks. Then when we get to the 3 to 5 years, I'm seeing a lot more that has to do with this culture, this kind of unspoken, right? That is the way we talk, the way we think, the way we integrate different voices into a room, the way we change what we consider to be, preferred practices. So that seems to be a lot on a lot of people's minds for the longer term 3 to 5 year plan. And then when we look at what's getting in the way, that's really interesting. There's a lot there about politics and rigmarole and bureaucracy and leadership. On a couple different boards, the phrase white fragility popped up, right? And if that's not a phrase you are used to, I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you, but it is an interesting concept that can help us think about why we might be resistant, why the folks around us might be resistant, that has to do with power and privilege and who has it and who's used to having it, and what it actually means to shift some of these conversations. It can be a scary and traumatic thing. So I'm seeing some of that. a lot about, the finances of this, like it does, cost something. So how does that balance with all the other priorities? And then this amazing concept of inertia, the way we have always done something and the kinetic energy that it would take to move beyond what we have always done into a new paradigm and a new way of thinking and a new culture. And that is intimidating. Absolutely. All right. Is there anything anyone else has looked at and noticed and been like, whoa, that is cool that popped up? Or I just want to give a public shout out to this idea.
Kathy, I also noticed an interesting comment in encouraging and supporting diversity in our donors and our vendors. That's a population we may overlook. We talk about audience, staff, board, et cetera. But that popped out to me.
Rick, I see your question. I'll answer it in just a second. Any other thoughts? Wait time. Okay, it's okay. You can throw them out whenever. So Rick is asking if we can save these boards and have them to share in our discussions. These can absolutely be shared as PDFs, although I think they're going to look a little messy. What we're going to do, and if this doesn't work for you, if you actually want that PDF, let me know and I can work something out. But I'm going to go through all of this data over the next few days and put all of it, all the 5 Jamboards together to look for, do some qualitative analysis and look for the common themes, and then send you the top level overview of what 101 people said were their answers to these questions. And then you can use that at your organizations, with your leadership, whatever. But again, if you want some of the raw data, let me know, because I'll have that in a little bit better of a format. Just send me an email and I'm happy to pass that along. I don't think there's any, like I said, it's all anonymous. So yeah. Okay. So we have one more board. So now that we have all of these ideas of how we want things to look, what's getting in our way, the last thing we're going to do is we are going to make a personal pledge for something we are going to try to do in the next year to move the needle on this work. So instead of sending you all a new link, I want you to stay in the Jamboard that you were in. I'm going to create a new, on that last one, I'm just going to put the word pledge. But the question is, and I'll put it in the chat, what is one thing you pledge to do in this space in the next year? Okay. All right. I'm going to go through and just put the last, on that blank one, I'm just going to put a word that says pledge. Once you see it, hop to it. All right, they should all have them. I would love everyone to put one thing. If there is more than one thing, I'm not going to know if you put 2 things. So knock yourself out. Extra credit. This is so cool. These are getting me fired up. So many exciting pledges. Let's give it one more minute. Sorry. Let's give it one more minute. And then we will read some of these out so you all can get as excited as I'm getting about this next year. So the science behind this is that, pledging increases, public pledging increases our propensity to actually do these things. That should come as a shock to absolutely nobody, because we see things like New Year's resolutions and public commitments on Facebook and on other socials helping us to motivate towards environmental behavior. So hopefully this has a similar effect. But some of the ones that are standing out to me, I'm just gonna popcorn read them out. Shine the light on BIPOC voices and work more deliberately. Try and have some conversations, even the difficult ones. Speak up when moments of white fragility arise. Not allow my own comfort to persuade against the growth of my organization. Join our DEI council and speak up as often as I can as an ally. Help our new DEI officer get the ball rolling. Continue to ask the hard questions. A lot around being a better ally. And I love that. And I encourage you to think about, what does that really look like for you? Does that look like reading more books about this, listening to podcasts? Does it look like joining a DEI council at your organization or in your community? What step on that journey would be the next one for you? Because allyship is a lifelong journey, a lifelong endeavor. Make more community connections. Get buy-in from the leadership at my institution. Yeah, find a new name for this work. The alphabet soup bothers me. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And we've tossed around so many things, from Jedi A to, I don't know. There's so many different things. Yeah, we'll get there. But I think right now we're just trying to speak the language, and that's okay. Yes, finding my voice to speak up. I love that. That's great. Coordinate a program in conjunction with a local community. That's wonderful. Actively place job postings to attract more diverse candidates. Awesome. Create a youth advisory committee to determine their needs in entering the zoo conservation workforce. Actively engage in circles with the zoo advisors team. Heck yeah. I pledge to add diversity to my board. Awesome. Improve data collection. Ooh, I can hear more about that. Overcoming my fear of actions when it comes to a lot of this work. Letting my organization know that we need to look further afield for candidates, and the most convenient candidate may not be the right one and may not contribute to our mission. Wow, that's awesome. These are amazing. We will similarly synthesize these so that you can see what the rest of your community is thinking about in this space. and hopefully know that we can connect with a lot of different folks around some of these common themes. Kathy just sent me, speaking of words mattering, an article about words that the Biden administration is and isn't going to use, aren't going to use this, in the coming 4 years, including one of them being the term illegal alien, no longer being used in a governmental realm, which is props to that. All right. I want to put one plug for a thing that can be done immediately. Yes, I can post that link. Kathy, can you post that link to the general chat? That would be great. As many of you may know, the Association of Minority Zoo Professionals just launched yesterday, and they are looking for folks to join their crew, join the network. So if you identify as a minority zoo professional, whatever that means to you, then you can get in contact, join the network, get on the mailing list. I'm going to look for the link so I can put that in the chat as well. I'm very excited to join and hope to see a lot of you there. So I just want to put a little plug out for that. All right. So I think from our perspective, what this is going to do is this is going to help us to understand how we can best support all of you going forward, right? Because we don't have all the answers. We don't have a magic wand that contains the solutions to a lot of these, to any of these problems. But the first step is always to listen and understand where people are at. And so I appreciate so much all of you giving your thoughts, because it is the understanding where we can look at all this and isn't within our realm of understanding or expertise, and how can we move forward to support all of you in this work that we obviously all find such resonance with. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Laurie and David if you have any other thoughts. I know we're really ahead of schedule, but I think that's what happens when you have people working simultaneously on a lot of these boards.
Well, one of the things I love this. This is it's kind of overwhelming. I feel like there's a fire hose of information in my face, and I'm kind of nonplussed. It's fantastic stuff. I'm interested to know if anyone in our audience here has any further feedback or what other questions should we be asking? What would help in developing actions? What do you think?
So this is Jackie. I'll jump in. So first, I love this conversation, and I loved doing that whiteboard exercise. That was great, and people had great thoughts. One of the items that I put on the third board about barriers or whatever is just sort of my worries about what is happening in the world at large with regard to these topics, and how are people coping with that and focusing on just sort of what they have within their control in this with regard to these topics. I'm sure some of you have successful strategies right now, but it's can be a bit overwhelming when you look at the picture, big picture.
I think that's an awesome point, Jackie. I'm not going to answer it. I'm just going to reinforce it, because I think the question of mental well-being is something that we're focused on here at Birmingham Zoo, and I know a lot of other institutions are looking at. So yeah, great question. What about mental well-being and resilience?
Mm-hmm.
Wendy put in the chat that she would love to see a shared drive or some sort of shared resource portal where people can share their plans and successes, resources, things like that. And that we hear you, Wendy. Thank you for sharing that thought. Misha?
Can I just jump in there and make a plug that one of the projects for this year's Executive Leadership Development Program Action Learning Teams is to help the Diversity Committee sort of reorganize and make more accessible the resources that are currently on the Diversity Network Community Library, as well as having a more obvious, navigable, easy way to get to that from the website. So that, I believe, that's coming in the next couple of months. It's not totally finished yet, but it'll be coming in the next couple of months.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Mhm.
And if other people know also of other groups doing stuff that we should know about, please, we want to elevate and amplify the efforts that are happening across our community as well.
One of the things I wanted to encourage, I think it came up either last week or the week before, is the Phoneafriend thing. I think someone had talked about when topics feel unsafe or risky, having somebody that they can call to say, is it okay if I say this? Or what am I missing here? Or is this all right? I very strongly encourage that, because I think of how many classrooms I've sat in the back of, sitting on my hands, afraid to raise my hand for fear of being wrong. And it turned out then the girl sitting up front said it, and I was going to say that. So I think that providing those kinds of outlets for people, if they do have fears or concerns about moving forward and navigating, call somebody. Well, don't call me, I don't like the phone, but text me, email me. I'm happy to think through things with people. I don't have all the answers, but I'm certainly happy to listen and to discuss. So I think that's a great resource that people should try to create for themselves.
Any other thoughts, ideas, needs, wants?
Kathy, and I just have one thought. A lot of our conversation has been about the BIPOC community, which is where I think it belongs, along with LGBTQ, certainly at this point. But I just don't want us to forget other differences, whether they're cognitive differences or physical differences. I'm reminded, quick story of a personal story. My husband and I were with my mother in Colonial Williamsburg a number of years ago. My husband and I were standing with her. She was in a wheelchair. The bus came up to go to the next stop, and she can walk. She was 95, but she was perfectly ambulatory. The driver got out, looked at me, and said, "Can she walk?" And I thought, what's wrong with this? And I wanted my mother to say, "I can walk, and yes, I can hear and I can speak." She didn't. I said, "Yes, she can walk." But I thought, there was a better way to handle that. Why didn't he look at her? And, rather than make an assumption that she could neither hear nor speak because she was in a wheelchair. There are tons of others like that, I'm sure. But I just wanted to put that into people's thoughts. So thank you.
Absolutely. There's definitely a yes and to all of this. A lot of our conversations have centered, as you said, on the BIPOC community. And that is, that's an area of great need, but it doesn't mean that should happen at the cost or at the silencing of all these other accessibility issues, neurodivergence, all these other ways in which we have diversity in our world and in our community.
Yep, absolutely. After the events of January 6th of this year, I was watching the news like I think everybody else was, and I heard Van Jones, who's a commentator on CNN, said, "Is this the beginning of something or is this the end of something?" And that I found just so wonderfully, and just wonderfully phrased and so meaningful. And in a sort of happier sense, I would like that to be what we're talking about here. This whole conversation, I don't want it to be the end of the conversation. I want this to be the beginning of something. And again, as I said, we're committed to making that happen going forward. We can't sustain this on a weekly basis. I don't think any of us can. But I hope that on maybe a monthly or some similar basis, we can continue to have this conversation. And I hope you will, sort of in the interim between those meetings, those sessions, be sharing, if we can create a place where people can share things online or share things with me or Kathy-Yoon or anyone that can help us continue. I just don't want to lose momentum. And I hope that you will all stick with us on that journey forward.
I love that. As Semisonic famously said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. And I like the idea that this is, this is the beginning of something, but it's also another step in a journey that's been happening for a long time, right?
Yeah, and two, I love that, Laurie, kind of it's the end of this the series, and I hope it's the end of us just talking and the beginning of more doing. And at Zoo Advisors, what I've shared with our team is that we're committed to continuing these conversations, and two things that we're planning. One is to we will continue our webinars, and we have 2 a month scheduled. They're not all going to be on diversity topics, but at least one will have some diversity connection to it. I mean, all of our ones. One thing that I am committed to personally is to make sure that any panelists that we have, that we are highlighting a diverse group of perspectives through any panels, but at least one of our webinars each month will have a diversity related theme. And one in March 25th, we're going to do one around diversity in design and the importance of bringing in diverse planners, diverse designers into your work. And on several of the boards, there was, hiring diverse contractors is one of the things you'd like to see. So how do you do that? So that's going to be one of our next topics, and we'll be doing those throughout the year. The other thing that came out of last week, and we still aren't sure, and would love to have your thoughts and suggestions. If you want to post them in the chat, send them to us, is how do we continue making the space for the conversation that we had last week? Clearly, there wasn't enough time, and we want to create that or offer that platform to be able to do it. We don't know if we'll kind of do once a month session, maybe one every other month, but we'd love to see that continue and have that safe space for people to talk and share. So those are two specific things that we're going to plan and pledge to do here as our team. There'll be a lot more things that'll be coming out of it, but those are two definitive things. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts that they'd love to share, based on what you've heard over the last month. I'd love to hear maybe some personal thoughts. Okay.
Or maybe anyone who ran out of time last week and wants to continue sharing their thoughts. We've got a couple of minutes.
Laurie, why don't you share the story that you were going to tell us, but you didn't have time?
Oh, Jackie. Oh my
I'm here for you.
Thank you. You're pal. It's a story that some of you have heard because it was a story that I had shared at the AZA conference last year. It's about that you can make assumptions on both sides, right? The story I told sort of had two parts. A couple of years ago, I was having conversations with a gentleman who was starting a new zoological venture. I was interested in that, in a role with that. And we were having these wonderful, it sounded really promising. Like, this is pretty awesome. I think this might work out for me. And then a friend of mine was on a call with him, a different topic, but it happens, she's trying to help me out. She was, hey, that Laurie Perkins should be great for you. And in the context of that conversation, she happened to just say Laurie and her wife. And then I never heard from him again, ever.
Oh.
And I'm making an assumption, of course, but it was very interesting that he knew that I was Black and we were having conversations. He knew that I was a woman and we were having conversations. And the minute he found out that I was gay, we weren't having any more conversations. And I was sort of thinking about, more hidden aspects of ourselves. But the other part of that, and the more promising and hopeful part of that, was that subsequent to that, I was here in Birmingham with my now CEO interviewing for this position. And he took me to the home of one of our board members, this very wealthy couple. And we're sitting out by the pool and doing this sort of get to know you thing. And the husband, who was on our board, said, so what does your husband do? And I was like, oh boy. So, I've lived in the South for a really long time. I know that how socially conservative it can be in this part of the country. And this was a wealthy, white, older couple. And it's like, okay, not any one of those things sounds safe right now. But I knew, it's like I knew my CEO, Chris Pfefferkorn, was completely on board, and I wasn't going to hide. So I said, well, I don't have a husband, I have a wife, and here's what she does. And the wife of the couple immediately said, oh, wow, that's awesome. Our daughter and her wife do something. I was sort of just hearing buzzing in my head at that point, because I was so happy that she had created that space for me. She had made it clear to me that it was okay, that it was a safe place. And part of what I took from that was, I have to be fair too. I can't make assumptions about people. I can't say that wealthy, white, older Southerners are automatically not going to accept me bringing my whole self. And so I thought it was some pretty good lessons on both sides of that story. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Laurie.
Well, thank you for listening. And thank you for listening twice, those of you that already heard this. At least my cat didn't have a hairball this time. How about that?
And I know you'll get even with me at some point.
Oh yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah.
yeah, Jackie, she's gonna get you.
I know.
That's kind of a segue into something that we've kind of been talking about and thinking about. But when you look at your circles and you look at who's been to your home, if you have children, do they see diverse people in your life? Do all of the people that you deal with look like you? And what can you do about it? When you look at the pictures on your bookcase, on your bookshelf, or in your home, are all of the people in those pictures, do all those people look like you? And or I would just offer this, consider changing that. I just don't quite know how to do it. I haven't figured that out yet, other than there are people that I could say post-COVID, once we get over all of this, hey, come over, or let's hang out. Open the invitation, because I think when what's happening at home is different, it will help what's happening in the workplace. So just noodling on that a whole lot lately, and just wanted to share.
Thank you, Laura, or Cassandra, sorry. That's great. But with that, ending on a high point, Cassandra, thank you. And thanks, Laurie and Kathy Yoon. And again, thanks for all of you for showing up for this. Really great to have you as part of this conversation. I hope you all took at least one little nugget away, maybe a lot more, but to continue on this journey. We'll look forward to being with you along the way. As Kathy Yoon said, we'll send some follow-up to everybody on this that registered, as in terms of what those outcomes and barriers were, and even your personal pledges in terms of themes. So thanks again for everything. And also all of the speakers that have participated over the last 4 weeks. It's been a really enlightening and fun 4 weeks. So thanks everybody, and have a great, great afternoon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.